She tells him, ooh, love, no one's ever gonna hurt you, love. I'm gonna give you all of my love. Nobody matters like you.
Hey guys, Mosa here, and today I'm bringing you my mid-season predictions review. Now, without a further ado, let's get started. Now, in week 1, I went 8 for 8 when it comes to the games being correct or incorrect, and then 0-16 when it comes to the differential of the games. And in none of the games that I predicted correctly, the games were not the exact scores I predicted, although there was key games like Tennessee versus Arizona, Pittsburgh versus Buffalo, Cleveland versus Kansas City, Green Bay versus New Orleans, and Baltimore versus Las Vegas. And the only one I got correct out of those is Cleveland versus Kansas City, as I predicted the Chiefs to win. While the Cardinals upset the Titans, the Steelers upset the Bills, and the Ravens got upset by the Las Vegas Raiders. Now this week, very interesting, because also you had Tom Brady versus Dak Prescott. Very good game. Came down to the wire and Tom Brady ended up winning it. But you also got Justin Herbert versus the Washington football team defense. Honestly, Herbert won that matchup. You got Carson Wentz versus Russell Wilson. Then you get Sam Darnold returning. Well, not returning. They were playing in Carolina. But going up against his former team and winning. There you go. That is some key games that honestly, I think that this week, they were impressive. And honestly, next week, it's a doozy. Now we have in week 2, I went 9 for 7 and 0-16 in the point differentials. Now, when it comes to this week, honestly, I did better. Clearly. But there are some games like the Dallas Cowboys, the Las Vegas Raiders versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. And by the way, the Dallas Cowboys faced off against the Chargers that week. And then you also get the Seahawks versus the Titans and the Chiefs versus the Ravens. And all of them I got wrong. Every single one. Cowboys beat the Chargers. Raiders defeated the Steelers. Titans upset my Seahawks. And then you get the Chiefs just getting defeated by Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. Now, honestly, this week was very interesting as well, because there was also that stuff that happened in Green Bay against the Lions. Honestly, very interesting. San Francisco honestly had a good game against the Eagles. You got Denver defeating Jacksonville. Then you get the New Orleans Saints losing to the Panthers. Tom Brady schooling the Falcons like he did in Super Bowl 51. And honestly, I think that this week has been very decent. And honestly, very decent when it comes for me predicting the week. Then we get week 3, where I went 10-6. So I improved by 1 game. And honestly, I think it was 10 has been the max amount of predictions I've got correct in an entire week. But I still am 0-16 when it comes to predicting the differential of the points. And honestly, when it comes to this week, you get the upset against the Kansas City Chiefs. You get the Steelers losing to the Bengals, the Bucks losing to the Rams, and the Packers winning against the 49ers. Now, honestly, this week has also been very good, as we get to see the Bears out against the Browns, the Panthers take down the Houston Texans. You also got to see Miami against the Raiders, which I also got correct, which was the Raiders I predicted to win. And then you get Dallas versus Philadelphia on Sunday night. Now, for this week, I really can say that some of these games, more than others, were interesting. Even more than the games I prefer, such as the Seahawks, as I am a Seahawk fan. As actually that day of the game, I actually wasn't even able to watch the game at all, because I was actually myself playing football. But regardless of that, the fact that I was able to get more wins each week correct, honestly, I think I've been doing pretty well when it comes to predicting. Now, on to week 4, where I also went 10-6 and 0-6 in the point differential area, as key games like Seattle versus San Francisco, Los Angeles versus the Arizona Cardinals, the Steelers versus the Packers, the Patriots taking on Tom Brady on Sunday Night Football, and the Las Vegas Raiders against the Los Angeles Chargers. And the only ones I got incorrect were the Seahawks, where I actually predicted my Seahawks to lose to the 49ers, and the Cardinals, who I predicted to lose to the Los Angeles Rams. Now, this week, honestly decent too. And you got Philadelphia versus Kansas City, very good game in my opinion. Carolina versus Dallas, Cleveland versus Minnesota. Honestly, Buffalo versus Houston, I love how the Bills just shut out the Houston Texans. The Dolphins versus the Colts was also a very good game. And Baltimore versus Denver. That was also a very good game also, in my opinion. But honestly, I'm like consistently 10, 8, or 9 correct games per week. And honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. Now, on to week 5, where I went 10 and 6 again. But this time I got 2 games where I got the score differential correct. And that would have been the Tennessee Titans versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. And the Las Vegas Raiders versus the Chicago Bears. Although I didn't get the correct winner for the Chicago Bears and the Las Vegas Raiders, there was still the point differential correct. So I counted that as a win on that column. But I still did come up short when it came to the prediction of that game. But games like Seattle versus Los Angeles on Thursday night, losing Russell Wilson, that was terrible for the Seahawks. You got the Packers, honestly, trying to give the game away to the Bengals, and the Bengals doing the same to the Packers. You got the Browns in a high offensive game for both them and the Chargers. You got the 49ers losing to the Cardinals, who lead the division to this day. And then you get, as well, the Buffalo Bills taking down the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Ravens nearly losing to the Indianapolis Colts. Now, this week was very action-packed, in my opinion. It was very action-packed and probably one of the best weeks in the NFL 2021 NFL season. And honestly, that could be up for debate. For my opinion, right now, this is one of the best weeks in football this year. Now, on to week 6, where this is the first week where there is buys, as the Jets, Falcons, 49ers, and Saints did not play in this week. I got a record of 9-5 and 0-14 in the point differentials. Now, honestly, some key games. Baltimore versus LA, which I got correct. Arizona versus Cleveland, which I got incorrect. Pittsburgh versus Seattle, and I got that game correct, even though I went and said that the Seahawks were going to lose. Honestly, rightfully so, as Geno Smith, even though he was reliable in that game, the defense wasn't. And the Bills taking down the Titans did not happen as I expected. Instead, the Titans whooped the Bills. And honestly, that was very mind-opening for me when it came to this week. And honestly, when it came to this week, games like Philadelphia versus Tampa, impressive game for Philadelphia, even though they lost. Miami versus Jacksonville. Jacksonville gets their first win of the year. Then you get New York versus LA, as the Rams just smoked them. And then, as well, Green Bay versus Chicago, division game, very well-known rivalry since back in the 1910s, 1920s, I believe, somewhere around there. Then you get the Raiders versus the Broncos. I know the Broncos weren't that good by week 6, but honestly, it was still a division game, and anything could happen in football. Dallas versus New England. Honestly, any of these games could have gone either ways, and honestly, this is not the best. Of course, this is not the best week of football. But this is one of the greater weeks of this season, as I stated. Week 5, honestly, is better than this week. But it's still one of the best weeks in 2021. Now, on to week 7 of the NFL season, where Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Los Angeles, the Chargers specifically, the Jags, the Vikings, and the Cowboys did not play because they were on their bye. But I went 9-4 this week and 1-12 when it came to point differentials. The one that I got correct was the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, even though I didn't get the score correct, I did get the differential correct and the winner correct. So this is like one of the weeks where I think it's not really as good as I thought this week could have been. But honestly, any week of football is interesting. There's always going to be errors, though, from the officials. There's always going to be some dumb calls on the by the head coaches and the offensive coordinators and the defensive coordinators in football. But that's just how the game is. and especially in the NFL. But honestly, this week, where Cincinnati beat the Ravens, the Titans beat the Chiefs, the 49ers lost to the Colts, and the Saints beat the Seahawks, this is like a week unlike any other. Now, on to week 8, where I went 8-7, 3-12 when it comes to the point differential, and only 2 teams were on a bye, and that was the Baltimore Ravens and the Las Vegas Raiders. And I believe this was the week where the Raiders had some trouble. I think the previous week was when their head coach had resigned, and that week, in week 8, was where their wide receiver, Henry Ruggs, was released due to an incident with a car crash, which I'm not going to go any further than that, as a woman did die and he's actually in jail and charged with a DUI resulting in death. But besides that, I'm off that topic. When it comes to football that week, the Packers beating the Cardinals no longer undefeated. That was a good game. Then you get the Steelers versus the Browns. Browns could not upset the Steelers in the dog pound. Then you get the 49ers defeating the Bears. The Dolphins losing, not really in a blowout, but honestly, losing in a decent fashion to the Buffalo Bills. Then you get the Patriots defeating the Los Angeles Chargers. The Bucks, without Jameis Winston as the quarterback of the Saints, the Bucks lost this game against Trevor Siemian. As we all know, Jameis Winston is no longer able to play as he's out for the rest of the year. And you get Dallas versus Minnesota, where honestly, this game was played by Cooper Rush, and honestly, it was the Vikings, so it was understandable. Either ways, the Cowboys did win. But then you get the New York Giants versus the Kansas City Chiefs, and not only did I get the correct team to win, not only did I get the correct point differential, I got the exact same score that I predicted in my predictions for this game's final score. And honestly, this is the only game for the season that has gone this way. And honestly, I'm very impressed with myself that I actually got one game in the season predicted fully correct. And honestly, I'm very happy with week 8. Now for the final week, we got week 9. And I was 9-5, 0-14 when it comes to point differential. Now, honestly, this was when the Detroit Lions, Seahawks, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Washington football team all were on their byes. And we get to see teams like Denver take down the Cowboys. Honestly, the defense of the Cowboys, I don't know where it was. The Browns beat the Bengals. The Buffalo Bills lose to the Jaguars. As then we get to San Francisco losing to the Arizona Cardinals. And then Sunday Night Football. They did not have Derrick Henry. And the Titans found a way to come up with the win with Adrian Peterson as their running back. Now, this week, honestly, I don't want to say it's the best because I honestly think week 5 is one of the best or maybe even the best week of this year. Honestly, that Buffalo game, Josh Allen got sacked by Josh Allen. Josh Allen got intercepted by Josh Allen. And Josh Allen got a fumble recovered, I believe, or forced, I don't remember, by Josh Allen. I mean, imagine this. Both Josh Allens were drafted in the first round in back-to-back drafts with the 7th overall pick. Imagine that. And now they face off here. And by the way, I believe this was the first time a quarterback was sacked by a player with the exact same name. But regardless of that, the Jags did well to keep the Bills in check. And honestly, this week was action-packed mostly because of that. But honestly, it was maybe the second or third best week in the NFL season to this day. Now, in conclusion, we got the games I predicted correctly, 9.1 on average, and 6 on average that I get incorrect. 0.6 games on average that I get the point differential correct, and 14.4 on average that I get it incorrect. And then you get the games I, of course, get correctly, the score correct, 0.1 correct, 15 incorrect. Now, this is clear that I'm not good at point differential or predicting the score, but when it comes to the football games, I'm pretty decent at actually getting the actual team that wins the game. Although no one knows what could happen, because honestly, no one thought the Jaguars could beat the Bills, and other games such as that very game, could have gone either ways, and people actually went in and said, this team is going to win, there's no way they're going to lose, and guess what? They lost. And honestly, this season is going to get even more interesting when the regular season comes to an end and the postseason begins. Now, that was it for this video. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. Tweet me any video ideas. Also, tell me down in the comments below, who do you think, honestly, was the better team up until now? I believe it could be the Arizona Cardinals. Honestly, the Buccaneers could be there. Who knows? But for now, you guys are going to have to wait for my power rankings tomorrow to find that out. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. Who is also the worst team? Now, like this video if you liked it, subscribe, and hit the notification if you want more videos. And I'll see you guys next time.